Well, the problems with mass Muslim immigration in Germany and other European countries are well documented and prolific. From the development of ethnic enclaves to terrorist attacks to a spike in rape. It turns out opening the floodgates to largely fighting-age men from nations that self-professedly hate Western liberal society and disagree with its basic values like freedom of speech, freedom of religion and gender equality wasn't such a good idea. And in the wake of the October 7 terrorist attack by Hamas, an Islamic terrorist group, a new challenge has arisen in Germany: heightened anti-Semitism. Joining us to discuss this growing problem is academic, commentator and host of the 1020 podcast, Ralph Scholhammer. Ralph, it is fabulous to have you here this evening. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Daisy. Always great to be on with you.
Well, always great to have you here, and I'm very keen to get your take on this issue. I mean, there have been alarming reports coming out about increasing violence in German schools since October 7, with one teacher reportedly avoiding studying Nazism due to fear of inciting issues in the classroom. What's going on here?
Well, what you say is correct, but actually this has been going on for a while. Just to give you one story, that was in the early 2000s in Denmark. A school was also no longer teaching the Holocaust because, let's say, due to the ethnic composition of the classroom, there was a significant number of pupils who were cheering for the Holocaust and not against it. So this is just coming to the surface now. It's like an iceberg where we always saw the top 10%, and now we kind of gradually start to see the 90% that have been below the surface. It is really an issue. And what really is worrying about this, just 24 hours ago, a 4-year-old girl was stabbed in a German supermarket by a Dutch citizen of Syrian background. I mean, this is the media all write about a Dutch man. So every time when it's a man, and you kind of can already tell what it is, and unfortunately it often turns out to be the case. And what is really worrying about this is we have this form of gaslighting by the media, which is, yeah, there are these problems, but it's just a few bad apples, right? It's just a few incidents. And this happened all, this is another thing to say, oh, this happened all the time. We just didn't see it in the past because social media didn't exist and because, information was not trickling down as quickly as it does now. But this is a new dimension. And as you correctly pointed out, it is not a surprise because you have people that are both mostly male, mostly in their late teens, early 20s, and also, of course, which is not wrong, but also significantly traumatized. I mean, these are not factors that add to the stability of a society. And what's worrisome is nobody admits this, right? It's all, oh, no, these are just, they're just like us and no differences there. Oh, no, there are significant differences and we need to talk about them.
We do need to talk about them because, I mean, that's a terrible story about the 4-year-old girl being stabbed, and outrageous that the media just said it's a Dutch man when clearly there's a lot more going on there. And speaking of the differences, 4 Muslim students recently declared themselves the Sharia police and started enforcing Sharia law on students. I mean, Germany has quite an enormous Muslim immigrant population, and besides that, Europe has a growing immigration problem. So how long is it before these police squads start to make their way into everyday life?
Well, I think depending on where you live in Europe, this is already happening. There are areas in Germany, there are areas in France, right, where basically Islamic law is now superseding whatever local law should actually exist. And what is worrisome is people are, and this is again, I have to blame the media here, there's this idea that your culture only changes once the other side has 51% or 52%. But as you correctly point out, it's not a numbers game, it's a will game. So you have a group of male students who say, okay, we are not going to enforce Sharia law. They don't have to be 51% of the school population. If it's a small group and they're willing to use violence and the other ones are not willing to resist, then all of a sudden you have Sharia law. It's kind of, I mean, it's a stupid example, but I think it's a good one. It's like, let's imagine that one member of your family becomes like a militant vegan. And then they say, I don't care about you. I will not eat anything that is in any way connected to, animal products. So you're going to say, am I going to cook 2 meals? One for the vegan guy and one for everybody else, or I'm just going to go with the vegan guy because he's so adamant about it, and most likely you're going to end up with the vegan option. And it's exactly the same that we see now with quote-unquote Islamification in Europe. By the way, you see the same with the transgender issue. There is not like that not 51% of the population are not LGBTQ plus minus divided by sign, whatever. But those who are, or those who believe they are so adamant about their position, right? That you have the American presidents declaring on Easter Sunday the Trans Visibility Day, as if they are not visible enough, to be honest. But it's once again, it's a matter of will and not a matter of numbers.
Yes, and that's the scary thing, isn't it? I mean, this radical Islamism is so virulent and so potent. It's like a crusade. You know, it's crusading through these Western liberal societies that have just sort of opened the floodgates to them.